Hello and welcome to another episode of Teaching Heroes, the teaching podcast where I ask teachers and educators what it's like to turn up every day and to teach tomorrow's leaders. And today is another episode in the COVID pandemic series. And today I'm speaking to tomorrow's leaders. In fact, I have students from Victoria who are coming onto the podcast to talk about what it's been like for them to learn in the pandemic. I mean, there's been lots of stuff in the media around what it's like from them, but kind of talking from the adults. So now it's the chance for these guys to express what it's actually been like for them. Tomorrow's leaders, thank you for coming onto the podcast. You can talk now. Thank you. Okay. All right, we're going to start by introducing you guys. So I want to hear where your names, what schools you're at, what year you're at, and where you and your family live. So Aisling, you want to start?
Sure. So I'm Aisling O'Farrell. I'm in year 11 at Siena College. And yeah, I'm from Blackburn South. So yeah, that's where my family is.
Okay, great. Thanks. Nick.
My name's Nick Honeyman. I'm a year 11 boarder from Canberra.
Thank you. Claire?
Hi, I'm Claire Eilert and I'm in year 7 at Star of the Sea.
Thank you. Nicholas?
Hi, I'm Nicholas Francis. I'm a year 10 student at Xavier College.
Thank you. And Macy?
Hi, I'm Macy Brick and I'm a year 11 student at Siena College.
So thank you guys so much for coming on the podcast today and sharing your experiences. So first, I want to go back to March 2020, or I guess February 2020, when we first started to hear that there was this virus and there was going to be a pandemic. What was some of your first reactions to that? Shock, surprise, anxiety. It was like, oh, that's not going to affect me. Why don't you start? Macy, why don't you start? What was it like for you when you first heard about it?
Yeah, so back in sort of February, March, I was like, it sort of came out a little bit. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this seems sort of like exciting, something's going on, and I didn't, in no way did I think it was going to end up like this, 2 years in lockdown. I thought, maybe, yeah, sort of like, when the flu came out and a lot of people got sick, the deaths sort of went up a bit. I thought it would be a bit like that, but nothing like what we're living in now. And if I'm going to be honest, when we initially I remember at school we had a meeting, like a year 11 meeting with some of the teachers, and they went through showing us how to like use Microsoft Teams and like scan our work and things like that. And I actually thought that, this is kind of exciting, something new. And I thought maybe it would go on for like 2 weeks or something, at most a month. So I was actually sort of looking forward to it, but little did I know it was going to last this long, and wasn't as good as, what I'd hoped for initially. So I just thought, a bit excited about it, something new. But I think we all, as a cohort, definitely underestimated the impacts and obviously how long it lasted for. So,
I think anyone that wasn't a scientist underestimated it.
Exactly.
I know I remember thinking, because we had a holiday to Fiji booked in May in 2020, and I was like, I want us all to shut down now, we get rid of the virus and then we can go to Fiji. Anyway, that holiday's still sitting there. So Nick, what about for you? Was it a bit the same, or did you have a different reaction?
Yeah, it was pretty similar. It was, we didn't really understand the full severity at the start, but then obviously the weeks just kept piling on and And
did the rest of you have a similar experience or something different?
Yeah, I was similar. I mean, I thought it was same as Nick and Macy. I thought it was pretty exciting, something new, sort of like no one had seen before, but obviously we underestimated it. Yeah.
So when schools first went into lockdown, what was your experience and your family's experience? So did you do work straight away? Was it kind of relaxing for a while? How was it? So how was it for you, Claire? Because both your parents are teachers, so you would have kind of seen it from both sides, the teacher's point of view and the student's point of view.
Yeah, well, I think we found it at the start. So me and my little sister, because I was in year 6, we had basically no Zooms. We would just be rushing to get our work done and then just try and lounge around all day, and then we'd have to watch we'd watch mum and dad do it. But sort of my first thought was just we're like all very close together in this, because we were seeing the behind the scenes as well as doing the work. So it was really interesting.
Yeah. And Aisling, what was it like for you when school first went into lockdown?
Well, I kind of liked it, to be honest. I liked being at home and being able to go to school in my PJs, you know. But yeah, it was different. I guess I did more work at the start because I was like, this will only happen for like a couple of weeks, you know, we'll be back soon, so I may as well stay on top of my work. But as it went on, it kind of got more lethargic and it was harder to stay motivated. So yeah.
And so, Nick, were you boarding in Melbourne then when the first lockdown happened? So did you stay? Yeah. Did you stay in the boarding house or did you go home?
After the first lockdown, I pretty much got the first plane out of Melbourne back home, and then was doing it from Canberra while all my mates were at school. So yeah, it was pretty challenging at the start.
Yeah. What did you find most challenging about it? Was it the schoolwork or missing your friends or
just? Like my parents were at work, everyone had a pretty normal life and I was kind of stuck at home. And I obviously love being outside, playing sport, being with my mates. So that was probably really challenging, just being stuck behind a desk on a computer all day.
Yeah. And when did you go back to Melbourne then?
I probably stayed in Canberra for, would have been 4 months or something like that. And then I came back once it opened up again.
Oh. Did you go bad mistake? Because then you guys went back into lockdown, didn't you? Pretty much. You guys were out for like a month and then went back into lockdown.
Yeah, then went back home again. So yeah, it was pretty challenging. But
and so, sorry, did you go back home or did you stay in Melbourne?
Yeah, I went back home again. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And did you ever go back? So what happened? When did you go back?
Well, I went back, I think the last term when it was all open again. But then this year I stayed and it's been so good, just being with your mates and then using the gym, using the facilities. It's been unreal. Yeah. You
got a gym? Hang on, Nick. You're not having the same experience that I'm having in lockdown. Tell me, what is it like being you've got a gym? What else is there? You're allowed to use the gym.
Yeah. What? Gym every day. We've got the sports centre, ovals, kick the footy with our mates, go for cricket sessions and all that. So yeah, it's been pretty good. We've been pretty lucky.
Yeah. And what's it like though, being so far away from your family when now Canberra's in lockdown as well?
Yeah, obviously it's pretty challenging, just the uncertainty. So I won't actually be able to go home these holidays because I won't be able to get back into Melbourne. So I haven't seen my parents for about 10 weeks now.
Wow.
And yeah, I suppose it's hard at times just not knowing the next time you'll see them. And it might not be until term 4 holidays. So yeah,
that uncertainty must be hard at times too. So Nicholas, tell me about you. What's school work like for you online?
Yeah, I mean, I find I need a sort of structure, I need routine. That's like something that helps me. So I've sort of tried to implement that as well as I could to the sort of online forum. And I sort of, it was helpful for me because I have 2 older siblings. So I had a brother in year 12, this was 2020, and a sister who was doing university. So I guess we could always sort of like talk about it, share our experiences, see what helps, see what doesn't. And sort of we had, like I had my brother and sister both at home with me. So like I could sort of have some socialization. So yeah, that was good in that aspect.
Yeah. Did you find that the lockdown brought you and your, brothers and sisters closer together?
Probably brought us closer together and further apart because we sort of,
depending on the day.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it was really good. And like another good aspect of the online school days was, so like it takes 45 minutes to get to school and back home by public transport, so that's an hour and a half saved each day.
Yeah, right.
I guess you could sort of use that time to go out for a kick of the footy, go to the nets. So yeah, that was good in that aspect as well.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Yeah, I found that a bit too, like the travel cut down time, does free up your day a little bit. Macy, tell us about school for you.
Yeah, quite similar to Nicholas as well. I really need to have my routine, just so I know, what I need to do and when. And for me, I did struggle with not having like the markers throughout the day. So, going on the bus and then, going to homeroom and then having lunch, because it's sort of just like the days sort of felt like they blurred into one, if you're just always at the desk. And while I did benefit because obviously I got like a couple more hours in my day than what I usually would. Like I saved an hour of travel to and from school. So as soon as like I finish my last lesson, I'm able to like, you know, start my afternoon instead of having to bus home for an hour or so, which is really good. But then at the same time, it's sort of hard to like continue to stay motivated and get straight into your homework, because you know you've been sitting at the desk all day and you want to go have a break, and then sometimes it's hard to, you know, come back to your desk. But you know, I do try to obviously I use my diary a lot, and I keep all my deadlines, and then as I would normally at school. So I've tried to maintain that normalcy as much as I can, so that I can still function as well as I can, and still achieve as much as I usually would at school. Is what I've been trying to do.
Yeah. And Claire, I'm thinking, you know, you're in year 7 and you would have had a couple of terms of getting to know students, but now you're in lockdown, and I think you guys have had a couple of lockdowns this year. Has it been hard for you to make new friends?
So as you said, the first term was pretty good. So we all sort of got all settled in, and then we sort of all made connections. So I haven't been able to see like my new friends, and because my primary school is in my area, I'm always around my old primary school friends, because that's where they live, that's where I live. But yeah, it's been sort of hard to like maintain connections with people that you've like seen for like 2 terms or so.
Yeah. And is the school doing anything to kind of connect you guys, or I mean, I know they're all working really hard, but has there been any kind of social activities you've been able to they've offered?
Well, we've got a few. I think we've had a few days in the past where it's like Zoom free, or like where you've got the work. So basically on those days, me and my friends will we might Zoom together and we'll do the work together, or well, we're always together on Zooms as well. So because of all of our classes, we see each other then, but it is very different to seeing them in person.
Yeah, it would be hard. And so, guys, I'm going to ask you this question, and I want you to be as honest as you can. And I also want to start by saying all of us here know how hard teachers work, and they're amazing, and this is a pandemic and online learning is new. But I think it would be really good going forward, because I think this pandemic isn't over yet. So even with the vaccination, and we hope to open up, if there are other variants that are very infectious, schools might go into lockdown again. So I think it's really useful for the teaching profession to get some reflection about what's working in online learning and what's not working. So Aisling, do you want to start us off and just talk about what isn't working with online learning, or what's missing, or is there something you would want more of, or anything? And let's just be blue sky thinking. Let's imagine schools have all the money in the world and all the time in the world. What would you like to see more of? What's missing? What's not working with the remote learning?
Well, obviously it's very hard to implement most like things that we usually do at school, like even just seeing people in the halls and saying hi and stuff like that. But I think we could implement more, I guess, chatty time, like to just chat and check up on each other. Like we have homerooms at Sienna, and like the teachers just literally go through the role and be like, how are you going? What can we do to help? And all this stuff. And I think that's really good, because people's mental health have been declining through these pandemics. And it's something that we really need to focus on, I guess, especially like in high schools.
Definitely. You know, I was speaking to a professor yesterday, and she was saying there's been a huge increase in mental health and teenagers needing to be hospitalised for their mental health challenges. Is that kind of something you've seen around or heard from fellow students?
Yeah, we all seem a bit down, especially in like recently, because it's been going on for so long.
Yes.
But yeah, people are feeling very down, I think.
Yeah. What would help that then, do you think? Like, what could we do as schools to help that, that feeling of being down?
Well, it's tricky because it's different for everybody, and everybody finds happiness differently, I guess. Like some people may play sport or music or something like that, something extracurricular that you wouldn't do in a normal school day. So maybe like having time for that during, like actually scheduling time to do stuff you like to do and like to boost your mood during the day, I think would be a good suggestion.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Nick, do you have any ideas for teachers? What's missing? What could we do more of?
I think being on the screen for 6 periods a day is very challenging, and it really drains you. So maybe implementing some asynchronous learning sessions, even maybe creating some incentives. I know Xavier have, we did a virtual cross country where you log your best time, just encouraging.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, just encouraging people to get out, leave their desk, go for a run. I think just encouraging physical activity will be very beneficial to everyone's mental health.
That's a great idea. Nicholas?
Yeah, similar to Nick, like I think Xavier's been pretty good at sort of managing, like trying to get that happy medium between trying to get through the curriculum and then also looking after the mental health aspect. So like we are the whole school community, so teachers, parents, students, we did like a survey a couple of weeks back just to sort of what everyone's opinions and views were. So around timetabling, things like that, because the six period days, they get pretty draining towards the end of so like they've made some changes. So we've got every Wednesday, last 2 are off to focus on well-being. So whether that's, you know, going outside for a run, going and playing a board game with your family. So something like that. I think that's been a good introduction into the sort of 2-week timetable.
Yeah. And with you boys, like 6 periods of Zoom a day, like which, you know, we don't have to name teachers, but like who's doing it better and what could we learn from? So, because in a university setting, right, like students are super honest, particularly in student evaluations, like very honest. And they talk about how some lecturers are really good at it and some aren't. So what for you works when, and we're not going to blame teachers, we get it. You've never taught online before, we 100% get it. But like what are the sort of teachers or the qualities of the teachers' lessons that work online and what doesn't work?
So something that I find quite good. So when there's breakout rooms, so the teacher says, all right, sort of allocates groups and you can go and do the work sort of with your mates. I find that's really good. Also having sort of like motives or like stages that you need to try and get to. So saying, you know, this work is due at this date. So you sort of have structures and routines and sort of goals that you need to try and get to. I find that helps.
Macy, what works for you with online learning?
Yeah, so what a couple of my teachers do really well is that they will obviously like share the content, like say through a PowerPoint or something, and they'll talk to us for a bit to obviously explain it because that's essential in teaching it, and that's what they would do at school. Then what's really, really helpful is the teachers that immediately follow that up with, say, like a learning activity that you have time to individually do for 5-10 minutes, like just about what we've learned, and then come back and share it, because I feel like I really notice a difference in the subjects where I do that and where I don't, because I retain a lot more of the knowledge and I can ask questions immediately. Say if I got this question wrong, we can go. And when I go back to do more homework or study, I feel like I remember that so well compared to if a teacher just talks at us and then the lesson's over. It just allows your brain to just consolidate a bit more, to sort of become aware of the information.
So that's what works in, you know, when you're face to face as well. So that's kind of a good point, is that what works the best face to face is kind of going to work the best online as much as you can translate it. Sorry, I interrupted you. Did you have?
That's okay. If I was to mention something that I sort of missed from school is with certain subjects, like I find it really beneficial when my teacher can come over and like see like physically my working out on my book and things like that. So I feel like I've missed that a bit with online, because like once a week in one of my classes we'd have like a conference lesson where we'd show the teacher our homework and she would go through it with us and like, you know, point out, you physically like write on our page and highlight things that we should, you know, change or take out. And so that was really helpful for my learning. And then sort of not having that one-on-one time like physically in the classroom has made my learning a little bit more difficult, but the teachers are doing their absolute best to do that online, you know, like the teachers are so amazing. Like every lesson they say, if anyone wants to stay after class to ask a question or email me any question you have, and they're just continuously making time outside of class to, you know, help us with questions or send us answers and things like that. So they're doing the best they can because it's really hard to not physically be there, but they're definitely giving a lot of support and extra time outside of, you know, their working hours to help us, which has been really beneficial.
They've been amazing. Yeah. So you guys are kind of, you sound to me like you guys are conscientious, right? You guys are kind of doing your work. So have you had contact with your, you know, peers that might not be doing any work? And do you know what it's like for them?
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah.
Like I know some of my friends and people that I know, sort of the main reason why they might not be doing the work is not necessarily because, say, they're lazy or they don't want to. It's because they're really finding it challenging. Like learning the content for them online, it just doesn't click as fast as it would in school. And so they sort of might, like I know personally for me, if I don't understand something, I have way less motivation to complete the homework, because if I understand it and I do it and get all the questions right, I'll feel, you know, really proud of myself. But if I know it's going to be hard, I'll sort of push it away a bit, you know, because I don't want to have to go through getting all the questions wrong, because it's really disheartening to see that on your page. So I know, people who fall behind, it's usually because of that, because they don't feel like, you know, that they're capable of doing it, or they're not understanding it properly. And I know for some people it's really hard to ask questions online. Like I personally feel confident doing it, but, you know, I know different people, it is harder to ask for support in an online setting. So I feel like that's a contributor to people, you know, not doing the work or falling behind.
Yeah. What about others? You know, have you reached out to your friends who might not be like doing any work? Or maybe that's you and you guys are just pretending that you're doing the work. You can admit it.
I think it comes to this concept of, again, motivation. People online, you kind of lack accountability almost. So people aren't as accountable, and therefore they just think they don't really have much to look forward to, if that makes sense. So they see that they're not going to be in class for the next how long, so why bother doing the work? And they're probably not as accountable. And
that's a good point. There's something about accountability or kind of being in the group, or I see, because sometimes I wonder whether it's such a balance, must be such a balance for the teachers to say, we want you to look after your health and you want you to look after your well-being, so don't worry too much about the work. But then you kind of want them to have some expectation of you, because as you say, Nick, like that's then an accountability, you know, part of it. So it's a kind of balance, because as humans, we work towards, you know, a goal. And if there's no goal there, it would be really hard to, you know, well, it's kind of like, why bother? Why do it then if it doesn't matter?
Yeah.
But then, as a lot of you guys are pointing to, that's not necessarily great for their mental health either.
I found with some of the teachers, like they'll try and give us some time to do it. Like they'll say, look, if you need a bit of a break now, take a little bit of time. You've got to hand it into the week. You've got the week to do it. So I found that really, really good, because it's been a little bit of an extended goal, so that if you need to, you can go out, take a walk, maybe just like go sit outside. It's I found it really good to have the extended goal a little bit.
Yes, yeah. So you've got you still got to do it, but you know, there's a bit more time to do it there. It's not as pressure. Yeah, that's a good idea. Claire, did you notice much difference from like last year's online teaching to this year? So going from year 6 to year 7, was there much of a difference in how primary schools and high schools approached it?
Yeah, definitely. Primary school was a lot more laid back. So we would have maybe 3 Zooms a day, and now I'm having 6, I think. So definitely just the screen time is very different. But as well, it's a lot like stricter in high school. So in primary school, I found the teachers would maybe spend like 15 minutes at the start of the lesson just like talking to us, catching up. And Yeah, I think obviously the workload has been quite different, but the way we have to handle it in high school is very different to how it would be handled in primary school.
Yeah. Do you have a preference, or are you kind of like, well, that's just the way it is?
I sort of like high school better because I found last year I would be left a lot like not knowing what I was going to do, because we would have 3 Zooms a day and probably like 2 tasks to do a day. And although we weren't really wanting any extra work, didn't know what to do with ourselves with all the extra time.
Yeah. It's been a bit, I have 2 sons that are primary school age, and it's a bit like that too. It's like there's, as a parent that's working, I wish there was more, Zoom time for them, just for their own well-being and their own connection, really. Actually, I'm kind of interested in that. What's it been like within your families, seeing your siblings and your parents cope with this change? What's that been like for you? Ashley, you want to start?
Sure. So I've got 3 other siblings and my parents at home. So there's a lot of us and there's not much space. Right. So when all of us are at school or uni or work and stuff, it's hard to find your own space to do your work. But I guess we've kind of figured it out, and now it's like clockwork. We just like do it. And whenever someone has a Zoom, like we're like, come on, be quiet. Like it'll only be this much. So yeah, the communication side of it's actually been really good for our family, and it's actually brought us together a whole lot. And like, we can now have Friday night, like movie nights where we watch a movie together. And so it's been really good for our family.
Has it been good all the time, or has there been times when it's like not quite working?
Well, it depends on the day, and it depends on what mood we're in and all that stuff. So sometimes it hasn't worked and we've had arguments and we've had fights and stuff. But I guess the close proximity actually has helped us like get closer together. And like I've actually learned a lot about my siblings in this last year and a half or whatever. So it's actually been all right, even though it hasn't at the same time.
Yeah, right. Nicholas, what about for you?
Yeah, like I mentioned, so like I've got an older brother and sister, so like Aisling said, it's all a bit close together, but it all figures itself out. And both my parents, they're both essential workers, so they've both been working the entire way through. So it's sort of just been us 3 at home for much of it. So that's almost been not a bad thing. We can just sort of chill out together. Recess and lunchtime, everyone's sort of out in the kitchen together, have breakfast together, those sorts of things. So yeah, that's been good.
And what about Nick? You kind of pointed to it that everyone was kind of out and you were at home alone a bit. So what's that? What was it like for you and your family and just 2 very different experiences as well? Like you would have had your friends in Melbourne going through this, these constant lockdowns, and Canberra's only gone into their, second one recently, now.
Yeah, well, I know they're not too happy to be in lockdown. They're not really used to it. But I suppose they've got it good compared to Victoria and New South Wales, so they're not really complaining at this stage.
Yeah, and do they work, your parents, and has that been stressful for them, or?
Well, both mum and dad can work from home pretty easily, so it hasn't really affected them the same as other people.
Yeah, okay, that's good. And Claire, what about for you? So you got teachers at home trying to teach, and have they been able to help and support you as well in your learning, or?
I think mum and dad have definitely tried to help us. I think me and my sister, we've had to help ourselves, help each other as well quite a bit. But yeah, it's been really interesting because I might be doing an English thing and then mum might come in and say, do you want me to help you? And then my sister might need help with my dad, and then it can get very it's nice having teachers at home because it motivates you a little bit.
Yeah, great. Is someone going to say something? No, Macy, what about for you?
Yeah, pretty much similar to what everyone else has mentioned. I have 2 younger siblings and my parents. And so both my parents are essential workers, so they go to work. My dad works full time and my mum sort of does like 1 to 2 days a week. So she's mostly here with us most of the time. So she does help out my brother a lot because he's in year 7, so he needs a little bit more support. And my sister and I are quite independent. But as you guys have mentioned, like it's sort of the noise is a bit of a problem, like because we're all sort of quite close. You know, my brother's room's just right there, and so you know, if I'm in a meeting with someone and it's like he's playing a game and screaming or something, it's just sort of hard to do that. But like, you know, we've had like challenging times where we've just sort of needed a break, where we've just been so close together and like fighting a bit, but mostly we've grown closer together and we've sort of found the routine of, you know, knowing that she's in a meeting, you know, let's just be quiet for a bit or something like that. But yeah, so
yeah. And so your friends, guys, what's it been like to kind of be separated from your friends? And Nick, you'll have to take yourself back to when you were in lockdown in Canberra rather than the nirvana you're in now that I'm completely jealous of. What's that been like, being separated from your friends?
Yeah, it was pretty hard. I was still lucky though, because I could still catch up with my Canberra friends. But yeah, obviously just being isolated.
Nick, I'm so jealous of you, right? I'm like, you're in Canberra when Melbourne's in lockdown, so you're like, oh, hello, Canberra friends. Let's just go to the football, while your Melbourne friends are suffering in lockdown. And then now you're in this like nirvana where can you see I'm obsessed with the gym? I'm like, man, I'd love to go to the gym.
Yeah, and now I'm living with one of my best mates, so it's pretty good. Yeah. I'm pretty lucky.
Yeah. So Nick, you can't answer this question. Ashley, tell us, what's it been like being separated from your friends?
It's been really tricky. I like, even not like seeing them in class or in the halls, it's been really tricky. But me and my friends have actually like done a team on Microsoft Teams. And so most recesses and lunches, we just pop on there and say hi and we talk for like the whole recess. So it actually feels normal, even though we're like eating lunch together and stuff. But I know not everyone has done that, and it has been really tricky for some. But and we like schedule to like do like walks together or go to the local park and, you know, kick the footy or something like that. But it has been very hard to do it as normal. So
yeah. What about you, Nicholas? Have you been able to connect with your friends?
Yeah, I've been I think I've been all right at that. So pretty much I try and organise something after school every day, just try and get outside. So whether that's like meeting a mate down at the footy oval for a kick or for a hit of cricket, something like that. But also like during school, like if the teacher says like some asynchronous learning where we get set the work, we just need to complete it, like just go on a call with some mates from that class and we just complete the work together while having a chat about.
Okay.
So yeah, that's been good in that aspect as well.
Yeah. What about last year though, when you guys were in the big lockdown? You weren't allowed to go outside and meet people, were you? No. So what was that like? That would have been really tough.
Yeah, it was a bit tough. I'm pretty sure it got down to you only allowed to meet with one other person.
Yes.
Luckily it wasn't with just yourself. That would have been pretty tough. But so yeah, it was always good. You can always go and meet with someone and do exercise with them. So that was good.
Yeah. What about for you, Macy?
Yeah, so I haven't actually met up with my friends in person at all, because we live like more than 5 k's away from each other. So that's been a bit difficult. But in terms of like online connections, we have, you know, a couple of group chats and stuff with my friends, and we talk like every day. So we've stayed really connected in that sense. And like Aisling said, we do a couple of calls sometimes just to like see each other and chat, or I'll like FaceTime one of my friends to maybe do some work together. If we're both doing the same subject, we can help each other in that aspect, which is, even though it's schoolwork, it's also nice just to catch up as well. And then last year, I think when the lockdowns were eased a little bit, I did a bike ride with a couple of my friends, which was nice, because that, you know, combines, you know, physical activity, which is obviously really good for you, with like the social connections as well. But I have really missed my friends because they're such a prominent part of my day, and you know, if I've had like a difficult period at school or like a test or something, you know, seeing them at recess is just like so nice, and it always, you know, brightens our day, and we, you know, help each other. So it has been difficult missing them.
Yeah. You know, Mr. Eilert, he was on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and one of the things he said he realised was really important in a class was those like little chats you have with your mate, even though it's about, you know, about work. Like about schoolwork, you have a little, oh, what did you get, or what, like,
Yeah.
he's realised how important that is. And I think I'm realising I think that's what I kind of miss from my colleagues and my friends, is it's actually just sitting next to them and not talking as well. You know, just sitting together at lunch and recess and just eating and being in that group. And
even in class, like some of my classes, we just always have a good time, like every lesson, you know, making jokes and laughing. And when it's just like, you know, online, it's just the dynamic is so different. Because when you're in that classroom setting, it's really fun, and you know, you can like bounce off each other and, you know, help each other when you're sitting next to people, as you said. So it's difficult being in that different environment, but we've done our best to work around it. Just hopefully we'll be back there soon.
Ashley?
Yeah, I mean, just like even in my maths class, I sit next to like my best friend, and it's like the best time ever, because like usually like I know what's going on in maths, so it's actually all right, and I can do the work usually. So it's more just to catch up and like, what do you have last period, or like, do you have a sack today, or something like that. And yeah, just the banter between us. I really miss that. Yeah.
And so you guys don't know when you're going out of lockdown yet, do you? You don't know when school's back. So what's going to be the first thing you go and do, or what's the thing that you miss the most that you're looking forward to when school reopens? Claire?
I'd like to go more than 5Ks. So it happens to be that my school is in my 5Ks, but the people I talk to from school aren't. But so I'd love to go see them, but school-wise, I'd like to just sit in a class and like everyone's actually there, and we can have a whole class conversation without having to be on Zoom. And that would be pretty cool.
Nicholas?
Yeah, I think probably just getting that routine and structure back. So, you know, getting all the sport back. So I sort of missed the back end of the footy season. And so probably getting into the swing of those co-curricular sort of things. I think I'm probably looking forward to that most once we get out of lockdown.
Yeah, and it's like those, because as you know, as I said, I was a drama teacher, and I know I'm talking to the drama teacher community, and they're trying to work out, how do you do some of those group physical activities safely as well, is a real challenge, because as all of you are pointing to, they're the things you're kind of missing the most. It's those things that are group, it's physical, you know, it might be a physical sport, or you know, in music there's singing, and like all those things that are kind of dangerous now. We've got to kind of work out, well, how can we bring them back, but bring them back safely, perhaps.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. Like, I'm pretty sure we've had a fair few lockdowns, and the way they've sort of done it, like they've done like footy training in groups of 10, so they've sort of had to sort of go back to it gradually, I guess. So yeah, I think that might be what they do. I'm not sure.
Yeah, Nick, what are you going to miss?
Yeah, same as the other Nick. Sport, definitely. I can't wait just to get back playing cricket, playing footy.
Yeah, I was going to say, what sport? So cricket will be, maybe was quite safe. It's a lot of people away from each other. It might be one that'll come back. Yeah,
well, last year we had to sanitize the balls between overs, and yeah, so yeah, it's quite funny actually.
Yeah, it's like level spray, or do you have a wipe?
Just a wipe. They will wipe the ball, and yeah,
that would be hard for your technique then, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it actually dried out the leather quite a bit on the ball. Yeah,
right. You play cricket too, Aisling?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I totally get it, because I'm a spinner too. So like,
right.
The ball is pretty tricky with the sanitized ball, but yeah. I'm definitely gonna miss the cricket side of it, and even just because I play women's cricket, and it's such a community-based thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really tricky missing that whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not just the activity. I mean, it's the activity, but it's also the people that you're with in that activity as well that you miss, and it's not you can kind of do a bit of it over Zoom and connect, but it's not the same as being in the same room.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. All right, guys. So you guys are tomorrow's leaders, yeah? So, you know, they're saying, the people, scientists saying that, you know, with the destruction of the rainforests and etc., that these there's, you know, a chance that this is not the last pandemic, you know, it's not 1 in 100 years anymore, that there might be another one in another couple of years because of the way, you know, the wildlife is interacting with humans more and more. And so you guys are a generation where you've experienced those hardships of what it's like being in lockdown. So let's imagine, you know, 10 years, 20 years, you guys are in leadership positions in whatever careers you're at, and we go into pandemic again, but you guys have experienced it, right? So all of us hopeless people didn't know what the hell we were doing, but you've had that lived experience. So what are some things that you think on that community level, when you look at the leaders around you, what would you bring to it, do you think? What could we bring as a society to the next pandemic? I know that's a big question, so that we can have a minute silence while you contemplate. But I wondered whether there's something that you guys are looking around at us adults and saying, man, why don't you do this? Or this is what's missing. This is what we should do. Or we need to do such and such. What would you change for the next pandemic?
I reckon creating and establishing positive relationships and just keeping in touch, because it can be so lonely and you feel so isolated at times. But if you have these strong relationships where you can just reach out, I think that would be very beneficial to everyone.
You know, and that's kind of something we can start now, right? So if you're saying, you know, in another pandemic, we need to make sure that when that pandemic hits, we've got a community that has strong relationships. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah.
That'll be easier. So this is kind of that's a really great, I think, preventative strategy as well, Nick, that let's make sure we have a society where our relationships are strong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who else has an idea?
I think we'd bring a lot of understanding to it, because we would know what it's like, and we can probably share strategies that we have, that we know work, and that we know got us through the first time, and we'd be able to really pass them on to other people and younger generations, I guess.
And your kids as well, right? You know, you could say, I think that's what you're pointing to, Claire, too, is you know, for your kids or young people around you, you can say, oh, well, I lived through the pandemic of 2020 and this is what we did, that kind of thing. Yeah, good. Who else has an idea?
Well, I think we could act sooner and be more open-minded, because I mean, at the start we had no idea what was going on, and some people were really closed off, being we're not going into lockdown, you know, it's normal life and everything. So I think being more open-minded and open to that something might happen, and you know, we can get through it because we've gone through this. So
yeah, I guess you guys would have less of a unknown, so for us, it's been, as adults, it's been such an unknown. And knowing that you've got to look after, you know, your kids or the people in your care with such an uncertainty, at least you guys would have a kind of idea about, well, we've been through this before, we will get through it again, and have that kind of attitude. Yeah, great. Other ideas?
Like what sort of what Nick said, so making sure that sort of no one's left behind, I guess. So sort of look out for everyone a bit more, reach out to more people. I think that would probably be something important if another pandemic or something happened.
Yeah, amazing. Macy, you have an idea?
Yeah, I think echoing what you guys have all said, the connection within the community is so crucial, because especially for people who possibly live on their own or sort of live in an isolated area, obviously without pandemics they can, you know, catch up frequently with family and friends, but just establishing more relationships, or you know, giving them access to something online, so that if something did happen, that they don't feel as lonely, and that they do know that there's support out there that they can get. They can connect with people, and also just just sharing advice, because you know, we've all been through it, we've literally lived it, you know, we're students in, you know, year 11 and 12 and even year 7's obviously a really difficult time, and this just adds to it, you know, being locked in your house. So just sharing your experiences and getting into action a lot quicker, like saying, we need to be prepared for this and, employ these strategies. And opening up a lot of opportunities for connection.
That was great, Macy, but my son's walked in, so just give me 1 second. We just had a little interruption from my son. I was saying that I got goosebumps with all those incredible things everyone was sharing. And the last thing is that there's been so much disagreement and uncertainty between adults, and I wondered whether it's the same for you guys, or are you guys just getting on with it? Is there much like talk about this lockdown strategy is not working and this one is, or are you just doing what's required and moving on with it?
Sorry, you go.
Okay. Like I've heard a lot of disagreements, like I've seen it on social media, even people like making comments about the leaders that we have right now. And I just, I don't agree with that. Like I just find it quite offensive, because the people it's like honestly such a difficult time. And they're doing the absolute best they can. Like it's not easy, being in those leadership positions when you've got the public, all having all these various opinions. But personally, I'm just going with it. I'm just doing, what's required, what I'm told, and just trying to see the bright side in every day, taking every day as it comes, and just trying to do my best and trying to sort of empower other people also to, stay connected and do their best as well, and offering support to whoever I can whenever, or if I see that, someone needs it, I'll do my best to help them.
Amazing. Others?
I feel like we all sort of have an opinion on this, but at the end of the day, we're all just trying to get through it. And so I feel like we all sort of know what we want to do, what we want to have happened, but we just have to work together and just get out of it, I think.
Yes, that's great, Claire. Others?
I think there's no point criticising. We must just stay positive, look to the good, and I think that's the best way we're going to get through this.
And I know like most people will have disagreements, but that's only because they have different like experiences in this lockdown and different sides of the story. And I think like diversing opinions only like get us good, I guess. They they get us to reach more people, I guess. And I think like really using that disagreement as a good thing and as a thing that we can work like with and to benefit the most people in this pandemic, I think.
Nicholas, anything to add?
Sort of echoing what everyone else has said. Like, I mean, I can't really stand talking about it that much. Like, it's all been sort of everything's already been said. Like it's all like a lot of sort of pontification, and everyone's sort of like it's on the news every day. Like it's the first thing on the news. It's on the front of the newspaper every day. Like it's all just sort of repeated stuff that we've all sort of almost heard before through all the other lockdowns. So I don't pay much attention to it anymore.
Well, I have to say, guys, the future is looking bright if you are tomorrow's leaders. They were such wise words, and I really hope people take note of them and take them on in the day, because as you say, there's all of you just said so beautifully, we can complain about what didn't happen when, but at the end of the day, everyone's just doing their best. And there's something so great, what all of you said around, well, we're just disagreeing and everyone's having a different experience, and let's just move forward with it all. So beautiful words, guys. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate your time. So off to maths class then, or English, or go kick a footy. I'm giving you the afternoon off. Teachers, no, great. Thank you so much for coming on the okay, I don't have any authority there. So anyway, thank you all so much for coming on the podcast. This has been another episode of Teaching Heroes, and we'll see you all next week. Bye.